Hello, 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 and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. Today, we are excited because I have Dr. Joyce D. Hightower in the building with me today, and I am so excited about what she has to share. Now, she is with Dixon Hightower Incorporated, and they are out of Vacaville, California. And we're talking about her new book, While We Were Absent, One from Another. Well, if you didn't know, this is the third and last in the series of her books. Life issues are dealt with across 5 generations. The main character has wisdom that he has passed down from his experiences with racism, being orphaned at a young age, marriage, parenting, forgiveness, the importance of a spiritual heritage, and, of course, family. The importance of a strong faith to both anchor and guide young men and women. But before we talk about her latest book, I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Hightower. So Joyce Hightower, a medical doctor, author, and international health consultant, was raised in rural Southern California. As a young adult, mother of 3, and secondary school teacher, she lived 7 years in rural Kenya before returning home to attend medical school. Her desire is to reach beyond borders remained on the back burner until her children were adults. At this time, an invitation came for a 3-week project to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Subsequently, she moved there, and among other activities, she began a project to provide for orphans and build earning capacity for widows. Her work in the community led to working for an international organization promoting health, quality, and safety. In order to effectively serve as many as possible, she embraced the fast-paced learning curve required to appreciate and maneuver successfully through the different cultures, attitudes, personalities, and devastating diseases encountered. She has spent the last 10 years working closely with national officials and hospital staff in over 30 countries in Africa. She shares her wealth of experience through writing books, songs, and poems, singing and teaching, and public presentations. The funds gathered from these activities help raise funds for projects in various countries. So without any further ado, Dr. Joyce Hightower. Hello, hello. How are you, Dr. Joyce? I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity to share with you.
You know, there's so much that I want to ask you, and I'm sure there's so much that our audience wants to hear. So I'm just going to go on and jump in. And I have to ask you first and foremost, since we're talking about your book, why did you decide to write this kind of book?
Well, you know, initially I had written true short stories from my life, and people really enjoyed them, but some of the characters didn't like the role that they had during the time that I wrote the story. They're stories about growing in grace, growing in maturity, growing in our love for the Lord, and they didn't like the way that it was portrayed of them at that point, because they've gone on to do much greater things and were really kind of displeased. And so what I decided to do was to take some of these same situations and put them in a story with true activities, but perhaps in a different place or in a different situation, so that the truth would come out without embarrassing the original people that were involved in it.
Of course, I can understand
novels was the route that I went.
Now, how do your characters remind you of the actual people that you know? Now, I know that sometimes when you're reading a particular book or even watching a movie, they say that the names have been changed, you know, to protect the actual person and all of that, right? But how do your characters remind you of the day-to-day people that you happen to know?
Well, around me, these are characters that were either combinations of real people in my life or real people when I was younger or as I grew up, even overseas. And so I actually can visualize these characters as being real people, whether they're a combination of two or actually just one person. So they remind me a lot of what people have contributed to my life as far as speaking, encouragement into my life, wisdom, and things like that. And like I said, I can actually see them as I'm writing of what they're saying and how they would normally act. Their characteristics are very real to me.
Now, I do want to, for those who may not be familiar with the other books that you have written, are the characters in this book the same as in previous books, or have you given us new characters to look at and discover?
Well, I would say that the basic characters are the same. Of course, they're aging. They're having families and those families are aging and they're having children. So it's like real life, and with new people coming in and other people going out. I think that actually reflects a real life of Marshall, the original character, as he grew from a young child to an adult, to a father, to a grandfather. And the first two books are his development. So we're meeting the people that are going to play a big role in his life, his grandparents, his wife, the culture that she's in, and all the people he meets. And then as the children are born, and born with certain characters as well, and what he learns from them, what he learns from his wife, or just what the whole family contributes to the shaping of each other as we do in real life.
I really love that. I love how you have made that so realistic. Because like you said, in real life, people are going to come and go from your life. Some people stay a year or two. Some people stay a lifetime. So that is so true. I love how you've done that. Now, what are some of the main messages, or are there any particular points that you find are explained or addressed that you really wanted to come through in this particular novel?
Yeah, I think in this one of the things that had been like hammering away at my life, having gone through a lot of things as I get older myself, is the importance of forgiveness and the importance of listening to people. And letting them out of the cells that we tend to lock people in, like that's what you'll always be because that's what you were at the time when I was hurt myself or when I knew you or when I was close to you. And the importance of realizing that if God can change us and mature us and refine us, then he can also do that for other people. And when we lock people in cells, like I would never forgive you for what you did to me. That was horrible. You are a very bad person. Then we don't allow the truth to live in our lives. Say God can change people, that we can learn to embrace people that we would not have touched before, and therefore encourage them through love, through God's love, because a lot of times we can't do it ourselves because of the injury that we've been caused, but through God's love, we can allow them to grow and to change, and then perhaps, as in this book, to come back and bless us years later.
I love how you said that, we need to be able to let people out. We need to be able to free them from the experience of just what happened at that particular moment, that particular instance, that we do have an opportunity to mature and grow and be able to learn from that moment and perhaps be able to change that moment later in our lives. Now, is there a particular age group that this book targets or is more geared towards? Is it, can you be 18? Should you be 35? Should you be 50? Or is it a book that's just for any person at any stage in their life, and they can kind of gather the message and the lessons for where they are?
I think that's an extraordinary question, and one that I had asked myself. As I listened to the people who have read the book, following along, reading all of the books, some parents are reading it to their children in their family reading sessions. Some older people are saying like, oh, yeah, I'm going to remember that for my grandkids. And some people who are saying like, oh, I really need that to be able to help my child. I really need to remember that this time will pass, or that if I really believe that God can change a person, then I have to have faith that he will change this person. So they've been all ages, not preschool and not,
right.
maybe sixth graders can, but that everyone has said that they've gotten some lesson out of it. So I think it's a book that maybe you'll read once or twice in your life and get different things out of because of what status your life is at or what situation you're going through. I think there's something for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Joyce, it's almost time for us to go to break, and I want for our listeners to be able to follow you, to stay in contact with you, and, of course, to be able to pick up a copy of the book. So if you would, please, can you tell us how do we keep up with you, where do we find you, and where can we get a copy of your book?
Okay, thank you. The book is available on most of the book ordering stations, if I can mention Barnes & Noble or Amazon Books, also through bookstores that you could be ordered. The things that I'm doing, there's a blog, Spiced with Grace, that they can follow some of my blogs. And also, just under Joyce Hightower, they can look at some of the things that are happening. And for the orphanage and the things that we're doing there, building the school and those type of things, the Dixon Hightower Foundation website is easily accessible as well.
Okay. Well, listeners, we need to take a very short break, but when we get back, we will continue our conversation with Dr. Joyce D. Hightower. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Dr. Joyce D. Hightower. Her company, Dixon Hightower Incorporated, and she's out of the Vacaville, California area. So, Dr. Joyce, we're talking about your book, While We Are Absent from One Another. What makes this book different from the other books in the series?
Each of the books has like maybe 2, 3, 4, and sometimes 5 major points that the main character is learning as he matures as a person, as an adult, and then spiritually as well. And this third book, he's a little elderly, and he and his wife, and they are surprised by the grace that is given them, as well as the change in some people that they thought would never change. And so this book is about forgiveness and not locking people eternally in cells of being bad people that should not be forgiven or who cannot change, whose heart cannot change. And also in dealing with, by the same token, allowing our own selves to grow and being able to prove maybe to siblings or to old friends, not to say that you're trying to force them to change their idea about you, but by living consistently in a different way that you've learned to live since that time, that their faith, their confidence in you can grow so that the relationship can grow and change. And so it's just a book to encourage people to allow the grace that God has shown in their life, the ability to change and to mature and to improve and to become better, be a truthful thing in their own lives, and to allow it to also be reflected in other people's lives and to appreciate it so that people can be encouraged to change.
I like how you said that people should be encouraged or given the room to do so, and so many times that tends to be the problem. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Give people an opportunity to correct a mistake, to right the wrong, whenever it has happened. That is so important. Good job there. With any particular book that an author writes, we have an intended audience in mind when we do so. Did you have a particular audience that you were trying to gear this particular book to? Or is this a novel, because we're talking about family and such diverse topics, that it's just a good read for whomever picks it up?
I would say that it's probably a good read for whoever picks it up. And at different ages, they'll be able to understand and to incorporate within their way of thinking and the way of approaching other people and the way of accepting people differently depending on their age, their circumstance. I've had reflections from different people from many different ages, from grandparents to very young people starting college or in high school, who were very impressed with the fact that a lot of the questions that they had or situations that they were going through were addressed in the book, and that that they were saying that, oh, I'd never even thought of it that way.
Right.
The title of the book kind of comes from the idea of the story in the Bible where two people are now leaving each other, and one says, may the Lord watch between you and me while we are absent one from another. And in this story, there's been some difficulty in their relationship, and some threatened violence, some misunderstanding. But finally it comes to, we've agreed that we will do the best for each other. I am letting you go your way, and I am blessing you. And it doesn't mean you have to totally agree with me, but I want the best for you, because that's what love is. I want the best for you to happen in your life. Whatever I can contribute to, fine. It doesn't mean I have to wholly accept you or to totally take you in, risk being, offended again, but that I understand that God is working on us all, and that I say, until we see each other. And one of the points in the book was that when you leave someone, like you may see them tomorrow, or you may see them in a year, or you may not see them for 30 years. But when you leave them, make sure that relationship is tight. Make sure that person understands that you appreciate them, because you may not have the opportunity again to speak that blessing into their lives. And so when we're leaving one another, make that a good leaving. Like I said, it doesn't have to be, oh, yeah, anything you want, just call me. It just has to be, know that my prayers are behind you. Know that my thoughts are behind you. Know that if you're in a difficult situation, you can call on me, and I will try to help you. I'm not guaranteeing, but I'll try to help you, even if it's just with advice. Because if you've played a part in my life, then let me honor you for the part you've played, for what I've learned from you, from what I've gained from you, by being available to you at this point, saying that when we leave each other, we're okay. We're okay.
I like that. That is so wonderful. And such a great point to make, especially for people that may be picking up the book and they're unfamiliar with that particular story. They're unfamiliar with that, and such a beautiful way to introduce it. Now, you noted that your main character happens to be male, and there may be someone saying, well, how could you have written the book about a male character when you are a woman? So how do you explain how you brought out all of his personality and how you got inside of the head of your male character?
That's a very interesting question. It was one of the things that I was first asked when I was first starting this. You can't make it a man. You're not a man. You can't make it a male character. You're not going to be able to address issues. But what I tried to do was to address mostly emotional, spiritual issues as opposed to the physical, societal. And he does, as he shares with his wife, and it is from his point of view and her point of view at different times, so that you get a juxtaposition. And some of the books actually go into dealing with the life of one of their children, so you're taking the perspective of that child reading into the situation. So these are issues, I think, whether you're male or female, that you would deal with. Forgiveness is something that we all deal with. Issues that help us to grow as individuals, and it doesn't make a difference whether you're male or female in those particular aspects. There are some aspects as far as work and the capacity to work and the capacity to do other things within cultures. And this is something that's addressed in the book about how different cultures will address the place and the opportunities and the authority and the positions of different people. But overall, as children of God, we are dealing with situations that are for our spiritual growth. And it doesn't matter whether we're male or female. We need to grow in those areas. We need to appreciate what God is doing in those areas. And we need to measure ourselves by the standard that God has set, as opposed to comparing.
That is such a wonderful answer. I love it. Now, why did you, in writing this book, why did you decide that it should have a Christian context? Why was it important to include that particular layer or dynamic of the characters in this book?
The main reason why I did that is because this is my life. I have lived in so many cultures all over the world, and just like in one part of this is a statement he makes, he said, I will always feel at home where there are people who believe that God exists and that he rewards those who seek him. So that no matter where he was in the world, no matter which culture he faced, no matter what situation he faced, and one of the other reasons I made the character a male is because he would have a little bit more freedom to go everywhere in the world and to experience the things that I had experienced as a female, but with greater difficulty. And so it was more realistic to make it a male who wouldn't have to face some of the same challenges. But just to say that my faith has seen me through a lot of situations where I was close to being killed by soldiers, close to being violently attacked in different situations. And for me, that is the anchor for anyone. And I just wanted to share that with people, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what language you can speak or that you can't speak, no matter what job you choose to take, that God is there with you, providing everything that you need to get through that situation with a testimony. It's not always what you think should happen. So I thought it was important to put that because it has been what has anchored me as an individual in the world.
That is so wonderful. Now, there may be someone out there that is thinking about writing a book, that they feel that there's a little something in there. So I'm just going to ask a few questions just regarding just your process and all of that. And one of the questions that I usually ask any author that comes on the show is that when you're writing, the atmosphere that's around you, do you have a particular setting that you like best, or are you the type of writer where they show on TV where it's like, you're going off to the log cabin and you're just going to spend a week in the woods and you're writing? Do you need to go to the beach, or does it need to be quiet? What type of atmosphere do you need when you are in the middle of your writing?
I just need time, I believe. I've been in so many situations. With these last 3 novels, I've lived for longer times or had a home base in 5 different countries and have traveled like every 2 weeks to a different country, or been in a place where I was kind of shut in because of epidemics happening around us where we didn't have the freedom to move. So it was in the evening, because I don't watch TV, maybe that's the biggest thing. In the evening, when I knew that I was not going to go outside again because it was dark, sometimes there was work to do, but when there wasn't, I would just devote myself to writing something. And as you mentioned earlier, I write novels, yes, but I write songs, I have albums, I sing, I write poems, I write a lot of different things. So it was just whatever was the mood. If it had been a really, really dark day, if we had seen, a lot of people die, or if I fought against people who weren't understanding the benefit of something that would have benefited them, or depending on that, it would either be a song or another chapter in the book or a lesson that he would have had to learn. If I learned something, how to get through a difficult situation, I want to share that, and I put it into something so that he could respond in the same way. So, no, it was always just in the evening, wherever I was. And I think that has, with me not being able to have a particular place because I'm traveling so much, it's made me a hardier writer. And the ability, very flexible. I write on the airplane when everybody's snoring around me. I write I write early in the morning. before everybody comes down for breakfast, just whenever I can get time to be away. Like I said, these are people that are like I can see them doing things, and so I'm just writing down what I'm seeing them do. Characters, or what would they say in this situation? Yeah, I know exactly what they say, just like we do for our best friends, you know. So, so I think that it's not a particular, for me, it's not a particular place or time or, I have not had the luxury of going away to a cabin and being by myself.
Right, I love it. I love how you said that that it has made you a flexible writer, and I think that is really and truly an advantage, because it doesn't have to be so particular. It doesn't have to be just so much that if it's not that you're not able to get that idea out of your head and down, I'll say onto paper or in your laptop or whatever else it is. Now, Dr. Joyce, it is time for us to go to break, and I want to make sure that people are able to follow you online, get a copy of your book, all that good stuff. If you will, please let our listeners know, how can they stay in contact with you? How can they find you online?
Okay, online, there is a blog, Spiced with Grace, that they can write into. I also have a site under Joyce Hightower that they can write to. There's Facebook, Joyce Hightower. There's also Facebook for the orphanage, which all of the proceeds from the book and all the other things I do go toward, and that is at dixonhightowerfoundation.org or any kind of combination of that they can locate the website and actually contribute, find out what's available, find out what the other writings were, find out what is happening at the orphanage and with the school that's being built, and that's with the Dixon Hightower Foundation.
All right. Well, listeners, we need to take a very short break, but when we get back, we will continue this conversation with Dr. Joyce D. Hightower. We'll be back right after this.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know, which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative? I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. So we have two California gals on the line today chatting it up. And we are talking about the newest book in her series, While We Are Absent from One Another. Now, you guys know that I have a tendency to call people by their first name. I'm going to say her whole name again. She is Dr. Joyce D. Hightower is her last name. The same way that I go by Dr. Angela, I am calling her Dr. Joyce. Her last name is Hightower, you guys, all right? Dr. Joyce D. Hightower. I want to make sure that you guys get that name in your brain, because she is doing some really, really awesome stuff. Now, we've talked about your current book, Dr. Joyce, but I want to kind of shift just a little bit, if you will, and I want to be able to talk about these wonderful experiences that you have had on the continent of Africa. And many times in conversation as Westerners, we speak of Africa as though it is a country, and people forget that it is a beautiful, huge continent. So if you would please, can you tell us a little bit more about some of the backgrounds or some of the landscapes or some of the people that you have met along your travels in Africa that have influenced you or influenced your writings in your book?
Yeah, they run the full gamut, from little kids who, with their inquisitiveness and their questions and their shyness, and then finally their boldness in coming to ask me, to having conversations with presidents of countries. They've all contributed, as you know, just like every morsel of food has contributed to our body. It's an attitude that I have, that I know that when I leave someone, I have taken a valuable nugget of something with me. So we have just a lot of ministers of health that have spoken into my life and that have said that they have definitely gained from my presence there as a consultant in several countries. I think that it doesn't matter whether you go away to places as exotic as Kenya with the Serengeti migration, or to the Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, beautiful, or to anywhere that you go, to the rock churches in Ethiopia where they've actually carved churches out of stone, and there are buildings that you can go into. Anywhere you go, there are amazing things, just amazing things. And I found that there are just as amazing people there doing things that you would never imagine possible, just having the courage to take life by the horns and just say, I want to leave this mark before I go for my grandchildren, for my children, for my nation, for the health of my nation, for the benefit of my nation. I appreciate all the people that I've had the privilege of meeting in different places. I appreciate all the beautiful sights that I've seen just with the landscape and the people that have been so kind to help me to see these. All of it has made me, I love my life. I'm one of the few people who say I completely love my life. I am so glad I was able to live it. It doesn't mean that everything went well. A lot of very bad things did happen. But I love my life because I'm carrying through now the good things into the future, and knowing that I would like to share those good things, the things I've learned. And in this last book, he lists the things that he would like his grandchildren to learn or to take into their lives as far as them moving forward. So they're not starting at zero. They're starting, as we all do, on the shoulders of giants, or on the foundations that our forefathers have have built before us, even if it's just our mother, father, or grandparents. That it doesn't have to be long ago forefathers, but just to know that there is beauty, there's magnificence that just testifies to the glory of God, how he could create all of these little things and far back caves, just, one-of-a-kind type things, and rivers and falls and just amazing things, huge trees out in the middle of a desert. How can a tree grow there? But just and all the different animals that are just like every combination of horn and skin and stripes and tails and things like that. There is someone, and it just makes you appreciate that no matter how much you're not like other people, that there's a special part in life that you have to play, and only you can play that part, and you should be proud of what God has given you to do, and however he's made you is perfect for the role that you have to play, and just to appreciate that. And I've seen a world that represents that.
That is so wonderful, and I love how you described that, to be able to just take it all in and share it with the rest of us. My next question for you is that I noticed that this is the third book. However, that your verbiage is, this is the last in the series. And so I have to ask you, because people go, oh, no, I don't want it to be the last one. Surely there's another one in there somewhere. Why would you stop at number 3? Or why did you stop at number 3?
Well, I chose to say that this is the last book because the main character has gone from 5 years old to 90. I don't, and this is why he wrote a letter to his grandchildren, I don't want the sadness of him dying, wife dying. Major because I believe that people, through writing, through lessons, through loving their children and pouring into their lives, that they do live on, whether they're gone to be with the Lord or not, that they are living on, as the Bible says, we're living epistles. God has allowed us to live on through what we've invested in other people. And it doesn't mean that this is the last novel. This is just the last novel in that trilogy. It was meant to be a trilogy, and so the third volume is in. There may be others because course, his kids and grandkids, some in particular. There are two that are only 6 years old in this last book, and they're really, really scampering about, you know. So there may be other ones about what they learned. We have come up into the year of 2000, so maybe there will be other ones about the children and what they do, or the grandchildren and what they do, or the great-grandchildren and what they do. But as far as for Marshall and Kitambi, this was their last contribution to that situation that I can see at this point.
And, you know, I like how you said sometimes a character doesn't necessarily have to pass away while you're reading it in order for you to know that inevitably that's going to happen. Like you said, he's in his 90s, so you know that at some particular time that's going to happen. But isn't that just like many times in our lives when someone lives in a different location? You know, I live in California, but I'm originally from Virginia. So there are things that are going to happen in Virginia, whether I'm there or not. You know, there are things that are going to happen in California, whether I'm there or not. So I love how you kind of leave a little bit to the reader's imagination, that you've taken them along the trip, but at the same time, to leave that space there and to leave people wanting a little bit more, and for you to be able to determine whether or not where you want to pick up, or if you simply want to leave it there and just leave it as the beautiful experience that it has been. I think that that's a very nice touch. Now, one of the things that you talk about, especially in your travels, and that that I mentioned also in your bio, is that you work with orphans, and you've made them a very important part of your life, or a very prominent thought even within the novel. Can you explain to our listeners, why do you think that this is something that we really need to pay more attention to?
Absolutely. You know, the Bible tells us that true religion is to visit the orphans and the widows. So God has a special place in his heart for orphans and widows. And I remember being on the streets of Democratic Republic of the Congo and seeing all of the street kids and saying, like, this is getting worse and worse. Somebody ought to do something. What is going on? And I went to Turkey, saw people on the street. I'm going like, and it was never in Turkey, but I go like, everywhere in the world there are kids on the street. And I just said, somebody should do something. I kept saying, somebody should do something. And then it hit me that, you know, my dad said, if you feel an inkling and you have the wherewithal, that's a calling. So I just thought, well, what can I do? I'm just here temporarily. What can I do? And so I said, well, I can start something. And so I was able to slowly buy land and we got 7 parcels, and then built a little place. And then I say, but God, you know, how can I come here and do this? And then I don't have any money to build. I'm here volunteering my time. And that's when I got a call from an international organization to come and work for them, which allowed me then to build the first building, 3-story building, downstairs for, you know, the kitchen, the cafeteria, where the little babies sleep, and their playroom, and where you wash them and all that other stuff. And then the second floor is for kids that are a little older, and then down in the basement is the classrooms for the widows. And this is where we started. I had not anticipated building a school. But, of course, if you have widows with young kids, which was our thing, you couldn't just be a widow. You had to be a widow with young children, with at least one child, 6 or under. And what are they going to do with these kids? So then we didn't want to just put them in babysitting, you know, so that's useless. Their parents are their mother's going to be here for 6 months. We don't want to just babysit. Okay, we'll do the school curriculum. And so we got a teacher to take them through the school curriculum, and we got another teacher. Anyway, as it turns out, we have a school with 100 kids.
Oh, wow.
No space in that building. We have even now taken the space downstairs for the widows, because they said that now they're out doing the project, and we have a greenhouse and all this other stuff. So they're able to be outside and still learning.
Wow.
And we divided their space into 4 different classrooms. And I'm saying we have to build a school for these kids. because we can't just educate them for 6 months and the school term is 9 months. That just makes it so that they can't go on to the next year. Anyway, things built and built and built and built. So now we're building a school, and this is another reason why we're asking for donations and for people to buy the book, so that because these funds all go toward helping to build that school, which we hope to finish by the end of this year if we get enough funds in. And to be able to then, we subsidize the widow's kids. Other people pay full fees because it's fee for schools there. It's not free. So, and we have, and it's K through high school, so the school is designed to be an American Standard Science aspect because, science is my thing.
Wow, yes.
So that they have the labs for the physics and the chemistry and the biology, and then there's a little clinic because, medicine is also my thing. So that we can have kids come from the outside to be cared for there in small surgeries. But by the same token, any of the kids, because it's going to be 400 kids in the school, and the orphanage, any of those kids have a place to be cared for without we're kind of out and away from things. So every time somebody gets sick, we have to go get a car and then take them into town. It's really fun.
Right.
So this way that we'll have access for the kids that we have responsibility for, and for any of the neighborhood, anybody that's in that area can also have access. So we're trying to leave a legacy of excellence and of commitment to the community, and of love, being the hands and the mouth of God in that community, and doing things in a way so that people, like for the widows, we made it so that they pay a token. They pay $1 a semester because we wanted them to feel some self-pride. You can't just give people things for free. Give them something that they can work for, and yet it's not totally out of their reach. But they're very proud that their children go to our school and that they are paying their fees, And so I think we've won one so far, and we're looking forward to winning even more, with being able to not just continue with the schooling of the orphans. And the first orphan that we had is now, he's in the third preschool year, because they started 3, 4. I guess he's in the second one. And he's at the top of his class because he's just been studying with these kids for all this time, going to their class and listening to them. But just to show you that he's so mature from 6 months now to almost 4. It's just amazing, to see him and all the others that are growing. We have some that had physical disabilities, some that had HIV, and just see them in good health and growing and learning is just such a thing to rejoice over. Very, very happy that I've had the opportunity to play a part in this. We have wonderful people working there as well. It's just amazing, just an amazing gift that God has given me to participate in that.
Yes, and I love that you are doing exactly what you have been called to do, and that is so incredibly important. Well, Dr. Hightower, we are out of time, but I want to make sure that everyone, one last time, that they are able to keep in contact with you, to follow you on the Internet. How should people do that? And even to pick up a copy of your book. So how should they do that?
Okay, with the book, you can get it through any bookstore. You can order it online through Barnes & Nobles or through Amazon.com or any of the major book-selling entities online. It also comes in the electronic book. And as I said before, all the proceeds do go toward the orphanage and the school. And I am on Spiced with Grace. Is my blog, and we have Facebook for the Dixon Hightower, Dixon. Hightower is Hightower Foundation, the website, and Joyce Dixon Hightower is also a web space as well. So any of those ways you're welcome, but if all else fails, if you just go to Joyce Hightower on the web, and Google me, you'll come up with wherever else to go.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Dr. Joyce D. Hightower, thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you very much, Dr. Angela.
And
Enjoyed
listeners,
myself tremendously.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you so much for being a part of the show today as well. And as always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.